This video is proudly sponsored by Gamersgate. Download games anytime, anywhere. Visit Gamersgate.com.
Warning. The following video contains spoilers for Grand Theft Auto 4. It also contains content that some viewers may find offensive. It's probably going to have some cool explosions and gunplay, too. So what are your options? Cool explosions versus spoiling a story. Decisions.
Not a year goes by, not a year that I don't hear about how video games have corrupted the world's youth. And it really pisses me off too, because there are some very serious issues that continue unaddressed. Instead of trying to find the root of these problems and solving everyday disasters like domestic violence and white-collar crime, people would rather find something easy to blame and sweep it all under the rug, like when my brother spilled Grandma's ashes. When I was a teenager, Mortal Kombat and Doom took the brunt of the blame because of their popularity and depiction of semi-realistic violence. And now that their time in the spotlight has ended, the Grand Theft Auto series has been taking the heat for years. The hot coffee incident of 2005 didn't help their PR with angry parents and midstream horse-changing lawmakers. Oh, don't get me wrong, I am in no way taking pity on Rockstar or their games. The reality is they've benefited from the negative press, which has no doubt boosted their sales. But as I grow tired of listening to talking heads on cable news networks and suburban moms pointing their judging fingers at one of my favorite pastimes, I'd like to arm you with some defense. More specifically, I'm going to point out what benefits Grand Theft Auto 4 has given us as a society of gamers. And if you're some punk kid trying to use this as justification for your parents to let you play a Grand Theft Auto game, you can stop right there. If you're too young, you shouldn't be playing Grand Theft Auto 4, and your parents should fucking know better than to buy you a game that has a six-fingered hooker on its cover. Have you ever stopped and wondered what makes GTA 4 so wonderful? What really sets it apart from almost every game that was created in its time?
Nightclubs, women, titties!
If you push the questionable controls in the dating minigames aside and stop thinking of it as a game, you can really see the work of art that Rockstar's North and Toronto have given the world. Allow me to break it down for you. 1. GTA 4 stars an immigrant trying to make his way in the United States, more specifically, an illegal immigrant from the Balkans. 2. It portrays a non-glamorous view of the life of crime, drug abuse, and sexual misconduct. 3. It stars an ethnically diverse cast. Most of the main characters are non-white. 4. Grand Theft Auto 4 not only stands up for minorities at large, but it also stands up for homosexuals. Not many games do that. And 5. Liberty City and the overall setting of Grand Theft Auto 4 is a fantastic time capsule of urban American life in the early 2000s. We've got a lot to cover, so grab a drink and let's get started. Niko Bellic! There have been so few protagonists like you before, but since you there have been dozens that look just like you. Because of the horrible atrocities you commit, you're not quite a hero, but because of your always good intentions, you're not quite an anti-hero either. Not driven by the desire for fast cars, money, and women, Niko wants to live the American dream in peace, a calm life supported by family. When the opportunity to escape his past as a soldier in an unspecified war presents itself through his cousin Roman, Niko hops on the opportunity. But what players probably have never noticed or made comment on is that Niko entered the country illegally. Roman points out that Niko doesn't have a visa within the first 5 minutes of the game.
You without a visa? I would stay in broker. Fucking stay in Hove Beach. Everyone like us does.
The cargo ship Platypus is the vessel used to transport the illegal diamonds that the entire GTA saga revolves around. It arrives in the city under the cover of darkness, and the ship's crew sneak out into the Hove Beach and Firefly sections of Broker, the neighborhood inhabited heavily by immigrants of Slavic descent. Without a working permit, Niko's friend from the ship, Hosan, makes his living by selling knockoff handbags, and Nico isn't much different from Hosan. His means of income originally come from driving cab for his cousin Roman, but when he needs more money, he seeks it out in less than legal channels like running drugs and making hits for the mob. But let's distill this for just a moment. Rockstar created an illegal immigrant main character who was sympathetic enough for over 22 million gamers to identify with during the time when the United States was building a wall on its southern border to keep illegal immigrants out of the country. He is the darkest of the dark horses, and he is the only illegal immigrant video game protagonist that I can think of. Kudos to you, Rockstar, for breaking new grounds. Fast cars, loose women, endless streams of alcohol, GTA 4 really shows how fantastic life is on the wilder side. Or does it? A few of the side characters in Grand Theft Auto 4 portray the non-glamorous side of substance abuse, addiction, and crime. Though it's not driven home into the player's skull like an after-school special, the message is definitely there. Brucey is a steroid junkie who suffers from violent mood swings and delusions. Elizabeta's long-term coke use produces paranoia, restlessness, and mood disturbances.
I am not in the mood for this right now!
The McCrearys are a poster family for alcoholism. Brian is a scab-covered, raccoon-eyed coke addict who's barely aware of what planet he's on. Marnie is a sweet young girl who lives on the street and barely scrapes by while begging for cash or drugs. And even though it's not a substance, Roman is a pathological gambler according to the DSM-4. Even the characters that are knee-deep in what some would consider as sexual misconduct aren't enjoying the constant benefits of the good life. And no matter how you play the game, there is no happy ending for Nico. Basically, GTA 4 is a roadmap showing you the 1,000 different ways to fuck up your life. Hey kids, you can be an asshole just like Brucey with bull shark testosterone. Hello children, want to sleep on a bench and have sores all over your body? Try crack! Have an overly jealous husband who wants to keep tabs on you at all times? Maybe you should bang someone else. Honestly, if you're living with the misconception that GTA 4 glorifies drugs and alcohol, perhaps you should recalibrate your morality scale. Have you ever noticed how homogenous the video game world is? The ratio of white to non-white characters in video games is pretty similar to the US Senate. It's mostly full of boring Caucasian men with little or no hair. Except for GTA 4. GTA 4 is one of the few games that has a legitimately ethnically diverse cast of characters. Unfortunately, at first glance, this cast of characters all fall into some negative stereotypes. The cops are crooked, the Italians are mobsters, the Irish are drunkards, the Puerto Ricans sell drugs, the white guys are bikers, the Jamaicans smoke a ton of weed, etc, etc. Seriously, the list goes on and on. It's a bit jarring at first, but the reality is each character is fleshed out so well that in the end, no one is just another gangster or just another drug addict. Every character has a backstory and a source of motivation that not only makes them believable, but completely sympathetic. When the curtains draw to a close on Liberty City, no one is just another token racial character, and for that, Rockstar should be complimented. They didn't simply sit down around a table and say, okay, we need to have X number of characters from Y race to satisfy the needs of that demographic. They sat down and made it worthwhile to see that every character in GTA 4 was more than what they appeared to be in their first impressions. For example, in the eyes of the player, Little Jacob starts off as nothing more than a 2-bit street-level dealer. But by the end, he shows his true colors. He's loyal, funny, intelligent, and he shows his human side as he confides in Nico in his attempts to satisfy Badman all the time. And of course, he's stuck between the same governmental rock and a hard place as Nico. In the same vein of looking beneath racial stereotypes, GTA 4 also digs under some gender stereotypes as well. Ever wonder who the damsel in distress is? Here's a hint. He's a little overweight, clumsy, easily scared, owns a cab company, and his name rhymes with Bowman. Without a doubt, video games are the most technologically progressive art form available for consumption, but sadly in terms of content, they're lagging far behind. Aside from mass genocide in first-person perspective, video games don't address too many adult topics. While I personally wouldn't consider homosexuality an adult topic, it is treated with the same level of taboo as though it actually were one. For the most part, homosexual characters are handled the same way in video games. They either don't exist, or they're presented as an offensive caricature of flamboyance and frailty. I tip my hat to Grand Theft Auto 4 for not only presenting homosexuals in a believable context, but for having Nico Bellic stand up and fight for Bernie Crane in his moment of need.
Why don't you pick on someone who'll fight back? What's your problem, fag lover? Whatever you say, buddy. Unfortunately, for hitting my friend, I'm going to kick the shit out of you.
The game even goes as far as to point out some rather poignant political circumstances that tie to real-life events. Bryce Dawkins, the deputy mayor of Liberty City, who is never seen in person within GTA 4, is an infamous right-wing anti-gay and lesbian activist. In reality, he is a closeted homosexual who is having an affair with Bernie Crane, aka Florian Krevik, one of Nico's few legitimate friends.
Bryce is getting blackmailed. About what? About me! Okay, that's not good.
Bryce Dawkins is the video game equivalent to Larry Craig, Jim McGreevey, and even Ted Haggard. But homosexuality is rarely handled this well in a video game. Were some homosexuals offended by Bernie's performance? I don't know, maybe? But my point is, I'm grateful that GTA 4 attempts to push the medium in the right direction by making homosexuals an integral part to the melting pot that is Liberty City. We all know that nostalgia is a powerful motivator in the video game world. Heck, I'm using it right now by presenting myself in a Final Fantasy VI inspired caricature. But the funny thing is, Grand Theft Auto 4 doesn't really market itself for the nostalgia crowd. However, give it a few more years and people who will be pining for a simpler time will play Grand Theft Auto 4 not to have fond memories of the game, but to recollect urban American life in the early 2000s. Grand Theft Auto 4 encapsulates early 2000s style of music, clothes, technology, automobiles, television, architecture and interior design, graphic design, dating, comedy, advertisements, politics, and more. It is a near-perfect parody of America, just before it was eaten alive by touchscreen smartphones. Right from the start of the game, most of Liberty City is left inaccessible. It's a game mechanic that developers put in place to control your pace, but the reasoning they give is true to the time period. Terrorism, or at the very least the paranoia towards random acts of terrorism on the US soil.
Why don't you show me around the city?
Fucking terrorists!
What?
Terrorists! There's been a big scare and you can't go across the bridges so good.
I guarantee you that people will play this game in 10 years and say things like, gosh, do you remember when our phones were that crappy? Or, do you remember when that song was popular? Or, do you remember when we were constantly living in that much fear over a potential terrorist attack? Again, hats off to Rockstar, not for just creating a believable parody of New York City, but for doing it so well that it will act, and is currently acting as a time capsule for that era better than any other medium of art. So in the end, is this cautionary tale with the illegal immigrant protagonist, the multicultural cast of characters that show the ugly side of substance abuse and sexual misconduct, the standing up for homosexuality, and the urban American 2000s lifestyle time capsule what make GTA 4 more fun than most games? Hell no! It's the shootouts, the heists, the chases and escapes, the crazy jumps, the perfect pacing, the clever dialogue, the awesome music, the helicopter crashing, the insane radio personalities, and the overall sandbox experience that makes GTA 4 a bottomless pit of fun. What I've listed here today are simply what make GTA 4 special compared to 99% of the games that have come out in recent memory. And that's why I can't wait for GTA 5. Now get off my lawn.